So, good afternoon, everyone. I would like to introduce myself first. I am Master Guide Rans Vesna Franca, and I am serving Master Guide for 2 years. I am a second-year nursing student here in our institution, Mountain View College. So now we will be learning about the Christian storytelling honor. So, how could you define Christian storytelling? What are the purpose of this? How could it help us? And how to learn from it? So I hope everyone is ready to listen and eager to learn out from this honor. So Christian storytelling. It is the art in telling a story. It is the oldest of all literary arts after being pushed out of the way by the press for a half millennium has in our time found new popularity. And it has now become one of the latest acquisitions of pedagogy. Christian storytelling is known as the art in telling a story in a Christian way. So there are value of stories. So first one is stories give a great deal of pleasure. So what does it mean? So for example, mag-story ko sa mga bata. Kailangan nga makikonnect pod ka sa ilang emotional nga status, like kailangan with emotion jud ang imong pag-story sa ilaha so that we can have a great deal of pleasure. Second one is stories inspire imitation. The power of a story lies in vicarious experience. So this means like if mag-story ta about nga na ay mga dogs, so mag-aw-aw-aw pud ta. Like i-action pud nato nga inani ang dog, inani ang mahitabo. Like yeah, i-imitate nato kung what is the kanang reality jud siya. So next is stories can be a powerful influence on character and conduct. So if the way ta mo story sa mga bata, kailangan nga maka-influence pud ta nga makatabang ta sa nga na sila good character and conduct. Maka-learn sila out from our story. So the purpose of storytelling, to introduce Christ's character to the hearers. So that is the purpose of Christian storytelling. Next is to make clear the presentation of Christian purposes. So there are kinds of stories of a Christian storytellers tell. True stories that build Christ-like character. So what are the sources of this? First one is Bible. So daghan man jud makita nga mga story sa Bible, especially like David and Goliath, Moses. Next is nature. So daghan tag mga story pud about nature. Like Genesis 1:1, mao na siya nga to ang focus if mag-story ta about nature. Next is personal experience. So, like mag-story ta sa mga bata about sa mga personal experience na to, inani ta sa una, tung bata pa ko, like that. And then wholesome storybooks. Pwede po ta magwa sa mga storybooks with mga Bible friends. Next is features of true stories. So, advance true knowledge. awaken the desire to reach God's ideas, have points of faith to be stamped in memory, have religious attraction of truth, and according to Ministry of Healing, page 447, never should books containing a perversion of truth be replaced in the hands of children or youth. Another one, never should a story containing perversion of truth be told by any Christian storyteller. Next is, never should a story containing perversion of truth be told by any master guide of Mountain View College chapter or there in your Cagayan de Oro Central Church. So what is perversion of truth? Perversion means pervert, distort, misinterpret, alter, spoil, or corrupt. So the effect of this are misunderstanding, confusion, misinterpretation, mixed up, and mistake. So, if mag-story daw ta sa mga bata, we need to tell the truth, Jude. Dili ta mag-pervert. Kay tungod na ma-confuse na nun ang mga bata. Unsa man jud tinuod? Ingon lagi sa Bible, inani. Unya ang story pud nimo kay dili siya related sa unsa ang sa Bible. Muna ma-confuse na ang mga bata, magka-misunderstanding na. Yeah, that's one of the reason na need na to nga if mag-storytelling, need nga mag-planta and then ato i-practice to self before mag-storytelling. So, must stay away and never tell, avoid. So first is fiction. Fiction are the made-up stories. Like, maka-confuse ni siya and perplex sa mga youth, frivolous, nonsense, and unimportant, and educates into a familiarity of sin, sensational, unreal, cruel, horrible, outlining satanic practices, and exaggerated. So, let's make sure nga the way ta mag-storytelling sa mga bata or mga younger nga mga need na to nga dili ta mag story about sa mga fiction or mga made up stories nga mga dili tinuod, mga maghimo lang ta og mga story. So kailangan nato na i-avoid. Though these stories may give good qualities of character and they give confusions in the mind of the hearers. So dangerous kay na kailangan dapat na mga good qualities sa mga character ang atong story sa ila ha. Kay para dili ma-confuse ang mga hearers. So, mo ni siya atong kailangan nga hinumduman nga avoid. Fables, mga human equating to animals. So, fables like kanang story na to nga inani ang characters sa animals and then inani pud ang mahimong characters sa human. So, or human to animals. So, let's avoid that. So, next is legends of human origin of inanimate. So, madili na katuuhan nga mauni ginabuhat sa mga humans nga na mga powers. So, kailangan mag-careful ta na. Next is novel of writer's imagination, usually magnifying evil. So, yeah, kailangan mag-avoid pud ta ani mga novel na kanang ang mga writers na nasuwatan ng mga novel kay like kanang kuan na kayo broad na kailangang imagination and usually magnifying evil. Next is myth. It is of human origins of gods and goddesses. So maabot na sa mga goddesses, mga diwata, mga lain-lain nga mga human origins. Fairy tales, stories about the fallen creatures. So, kailangan mag-avoid yung taan na kay tayo mag-story tag-abot sa mga diwata daraa, mga god of unsa pa na daraa, no? So mingon ta nga we know nga mga fallen creatures sila, but then let's avoid nga mag-story about ana. Oh, this one, pornography, is the most dangerous, and it informs the hearers of steps to eternal damnation. So we all know about this. Next is romance or romantic. This excites lusting of flesh. The wonderful gift given to a solemnized couple is grievously perverted. So characteristics of a good story. So the story has a or an purpose. Purpose niya nga kailangan mag-grow into a Christ-like character. Next is attraction for the hearers. Kailangan if mag-story ta maka-attract jud with action, like emotional nga kuan pod. Then attention getting beginning. So dako kanig impact ni attention getting beginning kay sa first pa lang mag-start pa lang kasi mga story dapat ma-attract na or makuha na nimo ang attention sa mga hearers or mga listeners. Then appropriate illustrations do kailangan if mag-illustrate tag story or kaning mga character sa story kinahanglan nga appropriate ato ang pag-illustrate nga makasabot dayon ang ato ang mga hearers. Animation and enthusiasm, logical order, and sufficient details to make it interesting, and short climax without moral interpretations. So preparation and telling your story. Number one is know your story. So, before ta mag-story telling sa mga bata or a certain person, kailangan nga makabaluta unsa ang atong story. Kay bawta sa flow sa story and analyze the outline, know more than you tell, and the second one is see your story. Before ka makahibalo sa imong story, kailangan i-see nimo ang story. Use imagination. Second is tell what you see. Next one is modify your story. Change style of age and environment. Then select pertinent matter. Abbreviate when there is too much information in source material. Amplify when there is not enough matter in the source material. So number 4 is tell your story. So know your story, see your story, modify your story, and tell your story. Simply, kailangan simple lang siya. If mag-story ka, dili kay exaggerate pod kaayo, then simple plot, simple style, simple vocabulary. So directly, come to the point, keep in the road, and avoid afterthoughts and reminiscences and sub-sermonettes. Next is expressively. Make use of your eyes, voice, lips, hands, and the whole body to express if unsa jud imong gusto nga i-express sa imong story. Gamiton imong eyes, imong voice, if kanang buoy kaayo siya, dara ang story, hinayon nimo ang voice, husgo nimo if nasuko ang character, like that. Next is feel your story. Kailangan the way ta mag-story, kailangan i-feel po na to ang story. Live your story. Have an aim and climax. And most importantly, do not moralize when telling stories. A well-told story carries its own lesson. So let's remember that one. So there are kinds of stories appropriate to age levels because lahi man jud mga attention span sa mga bata. So sa cradle roll, it is the 0 to 4 years old, the rhythmic period. So very short man jud ang atong story sa ilaha. Kailangan 2 to 3 minutes is usually long enough kay if more than gani ana ang uban nga mga bata, hala, maglako-lako na ito, magtabi-tabi na, magkaon na. So, let's consider sa ilahang mga age. Full of action, descriptions, details are not interesting. So, next is rhythmic or rhythm, rhyme, repetition. Action verbs should be plentiful. So, kailangan, ginabalik-balik na to. Unsag, kani si Kuan, ang iyahang name kay si John. Unsag ganito ang name niya? So, si John, like inana ang example. Repetition, para dali ra makahinumdum ang mga cradle roll. Then, positive in approach. Simple in vocabulary and concept. So, kailangan po well-illustrated pictures, objects, or actions, or facial expressions. So, if mag-illustrate dito mga objects or actions, kailangan makita po sa itong face ang mga expressions. Then, about family, home, animals, pets, Bibles. Cut short if group gets restless. Children this age love to mimic the action of the story. So young children particularly like stories about daily activities, things they do every day, like unsa man, maligo, makaon, like mao na siya mga usually nga ginagdunat every day nga dali ra makarelate pod ang mga bata. So Bible stories that particularly appropriate na Noah, si baby Moses, baby Jesus, angels, and shepherds, and etc. So avoid gruesome, violent, or frightening na mga stories. When preparing a story for babies, think what is one big thing that is important for the child from the story. So let's consider that one. Then build around that one thing and forget everything else. So second one is kindergarten, 4 to 7 years old. So inquisitive period. Interest now include the neighbors and what others think, say, and do. An age of great faith believes what told, full of questions. So, ang kaning mga kindergarten, kay daghan kini sila mga pangutana. Ma'am, anong ninani man, ma'am? Unya, ninani naman po siya, ma'am. Like that, kailangan jud nga naatay firm nga answer sa ilang mga questions. Kay if dili na ta ma-answer ang ilang mga questions appropriately, muhilak ng uban, ang uban kay maduna sa mama, muuli na, mabalik na, at dili na maminaw. So still likes the familiar objects. So things said and done every day. So if magkontag mga character or mga things sa ato ang story, kailangan ng mga familiar things or mga subjects ang ato ang gamiton. So also likes to hear children from other lands. So gusto po na sila maminaw mga story ng mga inana. Next is now interest in the outward evidences of different jobs, the uniform of the nurse, the jeep, the missionary drivers, the doctors, bag, or any other ng mga different job uniforms. Loves nature or objects. Sino sila magkuhan? May mga trees, na ay mga butterflies, mga birds. The next is can use stories with simple plots. Still loves much repetition. So pud sila nga dapat ibalik-balik dyan. Likes vivid sensory words. Stories can be slightly longer than that with younger age. Bible stories particularly like include Samuel, Boy David, Creation, sa pa mga Garden of Eden, like that. Gusto kayo na ang mga kindergarten ang mga ina ng stories. So stories should be illustrated. Nga na siya mga pictures, mga objects, mga graphs, or mga actions padara kay visual man jud ni ang mga kindergarten good. And then next is primary. Primary is the imaginative period, 7 to 10 years old. So children with this age are bordered between the realization and the reality and the symbolic. So they have great imagination and appreciate the supernatural. Stories should be rich in sense appeal and upholds the truth of loyalty, kindness, and justice. So they like stories of hobbies and craft, legends, fables, flight of fantasy. Like inana nga mga story ganahan sila nga maka-imagine pa sila. Next is natural craving for flights of fantasy is satisfied in the stories of supernatural in the Bible. So here are the examples: pillar of cloud, crossing the Red Sea, the sweeting of waters, miracles of New Testament, and etc. And also the story of Jonah, accepted at this age that builds strength and faith. If introduced later on, it might not be accepted. Next is just getting into the hero worship age, beginning to enjoy real adventure stories and love nature stories. And then mag-enjoy po sila sa mga complicated nga mga plot and fewer illustration nga mga necessary. Then next is junior. This is the period of heroic, 10 to 11 years old. So the key word is energy. Juniors are alert. Alert kayo sila, maminaw, jud kayo ni sila. And adventurous. Gusto ni sila kanang ang mga story kay nag-adventure, na anhin ring a land, anhin ring a lugar, and tanibalhin dito self-reliant, lovers of nature, sila nature, and out of doors. So, padapod nga if mag-storytelling mo, kay like adto sa ninyo sila sa nature, ipa-walk sa ninyo sila before nga mag-story jud nga proper so that they can learn kay adventurous man ni sila and gusto sila sa mga outdoors and great collectors. Golden age of memory, then twice as much of the story is remembered as in previous ages. So, gabi ni sila memory kaninga period. So hero worshippers seeks to imitate his heroes. Inani ni sila, gina-imitate nila ilang mga heroes. As a hero worshipper, he recognizes authority, sensing God's right to rule the world as well as his life. Then choose vigorously realistic stories from nature, science, biography, and missions. So Bible stories particularly like are yung mga gustuan ni kay mga David and Goliath, isa pa Daniel in the lion's den, Gideon, Samson, etc. Stories should be told with much enthusiasm and vigor. Sense of humor is simple. Be careful not to overstimulate. Simple lang po if mag-story ta ani mga junior. The next is early teen, the romantic period. Mga kuan sila, mga 13 to 17 years old. Period of idealism between childhood and adulthood. Age of spiritual awakening and choice of life work. Stories should center on those who conquer circumstances through idealism and spiritual courage rather than physical value. Next is high-minded romance and adventure that show the true meaning of love. Manhood and womanhood have great appeal. So kailangan the way to mag-storytelling sa kaning mga early teens kay careful pud no sa to ang kuan kay high-minded romance and adventure jud sila. Bible stories particularly appropriate are Saul and David, David and Jonathan, Ruth, Esther, the calling of the disciples, Paul's conversion, incidents from the life of Christ that help integrate personality and to transform the heart. So, morning mga source nga, you have found materials for stories for each of the categories. So, sacred history, okay, dahil naman sila makasabot ani kay mga early teen naman sila. Church history, nature, character story, object lesson with visual aid. Then for above stories na gusto pa nimo tell a story to children not over 5 years of age for at least 3 minutes. So kana mga not over 5 years lang, ilang edad pa. Dili jud ka mula pa sa 13, I mean 3 minutes. Then mga group of children nga 10 to 12 years old, at least 5 minutes lang ang imong range sa story. Then make a written outline for a story you are to tell. Then state how and under what circumstances ng mga material. First is telling the story in first person, second person, and third person. He, she, you, like that. Then making audiences, ages, and purposes different. Kailangan nga i-consider natin ilang mga age. Making the story shorter, making the story longer. Depends sa ilahang age kay sa ilaha pong attention span. Then tell why a definite aim is necessary in telling a story. Then tell one story of foreign missionaries, not less than 5 minutes lang yun siya ang iyang length. Tell one story teaching health principles, then tell from memory the 7 principles of Christian storytelling. So storytelling feedback sheet, like story, kailangan ang plot nato is suitable for audience like age, culture, and etc. na kailangan makorelate sila sa atuang story. Next is purpose appropriate for audience. Like, nani, ang sabi itong purpose, na makaibalo sila, na maka-learn sila tungod sa ato ang story. Then vocabulary understood by audience. For example, kaning na ay bata nga na ano dyan siya nga English jud kay English siya ilang balay and then napoy uban nga bata nga Bisaya pero makasabot ra pud og English. So kailangan i-understand pud nato ang ilahang language or vocabulary nga if makasabot ba sila or explain pud na to, expand pud na to if mag-English ta expand na to ang meaning sa certain nga mga words or sa story. Then inspirational qualities. The storyteller have personal appearance nga no distracting mannerism, neat and attractive ang storyteller. Then eye contact with audience, direct and warm. Dili kay tanong ko na to mga bata nila ganaan nila di ka didto bisag unsa ra ang imuhang lingion. Then poise pod, kailangan po na siya. Then empathy with audience, preparation. Then voice pod. Then tone quality, articulation, flexibility, volume, and rate or timing. So sa action, kailangan tag na yung mga animation, mga posture, gestures, sequence of events, sa structures and story, description, climax, then interpretation, imagination, kailangan kay ang mood setting pod nga ma-imagine jud sa ato ang hearers kung unsa ato ang buot ipasabot. So, ang mood po niya, ang illustration, then ang audience reaction. Importante kay na siya. So, kailangan po nga kanang suko ang kaning character, kailangan with emotional jud na to pag-express. Kay if luya pud ang pag-story nato, maluya pud ang mga naminaw. No. So, like this is the example na kanang if kanang telling ta sa mga bata, kailangan mo niya nga to ang flow sa or sequence na tong buhaton. Title, source story, audience, kinsa man i-consider na to nga unsa ba ni siya, primary ba ni siya, kindergarten ba ni siya, early teen ba ni siya. So dapat inana kay para ma-consider na to ang ilahang attention span. Not more than 5 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes or at least 3 minutes lang ba nga ang ato ang story. Then unsa man nga mga listeners like inana para ma-consider na to daan ang ilahang need and makabaluta kung unsa jud ang ato ang kailangan nga story sa ilaha, and then kailangan na mag-prepare ta sa ato ang story nga masabtan jud sa mga listeners. So, storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into the world today. No, it's important jud na powerful kaayo ang ato ang story. Kailangan nga before ta mag-story jud, we have to study sa to story. Kay dili man pwede nga kanang mga kuan ra bitaw ni sila nga mga bata. No. Let's consider nga kanang nga out from that story maka-learn jud sila and madala na nila sa bisan asa kung sa ilahang balay ba or sa mga friends nga kana nga story nga ilahang na learn nga ma-share po nila sa uban nga makasabot jud sila sa ilahang story nga nadunggan. So according to Robert McKee, I will repeat, storytelling is the most powerful way to put ideas into our world today. So I think that's it. This will end our Christian storytelling honor. And if you have any clarifications or any questions, don't hesitate to ask me or any of your leaders there in Cagayan de Oro Central Church. So thank you for inviting me, and may God bless us all.